Hello, and thank you so much for joining me today. This is the card we are going to be working on today. It is using the alcohol ink background I created in a previous post. And this is going to be the background I'm going to be using. It is one that I used with the gold Mixative. And this is the card base I'm using, and this is pre-cut and pre-scored for me. This is 5.5 by 5.5. It comes in a pack, and I buy this pack at Michael's. And the way I like to cover the base of my card is instead of cutting the piece to the size of the card, I like putting the card on the piece of paper I'm going to be using and cutting around it. And I can use this middle piece here, or I could just paste it as it is. In this case, I decided to use my paper to cut part of what I'm going to be using in the card. And that's this little like vine. So instead of wasting that paper that is not going to be seen, I go ahead and I utilize it in cutting something that I could be using for the card. And in this case, it's going to be this vine where my fairies are going to be sitting on. So I just take my glue from Aleene's. I love this glue. It's liquid glue. And I just put it all over the card and I stick it onto my base. I'm now going to take the piece I created with the alcohol inks and cut it down to size to fit on top of the card base. And what I like to do is take the size of the card and just bring it in 1/4 smaller. And this way, you know, I could get a nice even border around my card. And next I'm going to be embossing my sentiment in the middle of the card. And I apologize, but off camera, I think my camera was probably off. I applied some anti-static and then I stamped my greeting, "Have a very nice day." And I added some black embossing powder to it and just clean it off, you know, if you have any little specks of embossing powder on. And then I apply my heating tool to it to get a nice embossed image. And I see here that my paper started to melt because this is photo paper, so you have to be careful when doing that. And then I'm just going to be applying some foam adhesive. I tried to making this a little faster by using an X-Acto knife, but that did not work. I just had to peel off all the backings. Then we are going to center it on my card base. So next I'm going to be coloring, or actually stamping, my little fairies with VersaFine ink. And I am using the MISTI tool. It's a great tool. You place your stamps, pick them up with the door, then apply the ink to your stamp. And the beauty of this tool is that if you do not stamp something correctly or something is missing somewhere, you could double stamp if you need it. The MISTI tool will apply ink without moving the stamps anywhere. So now my stamps are ready for coloring, and here they are, all colored in, and they are ready to be die cut. And it is a good idea to apply a little bit of washi tape or painter's tape, a tape that is not too tacky, a tape that is low in glue, that is made to be repositioned. It's a good idea to apply pieces to the outside rim of your metal die, and this way the metal die will not move or shift as you are running it through your die cutting machine. But you do have to be careful in applying this tape on the outside rim of your metal die, because once you run it through your machine, it's going to be pressed into the paper. So there have been times where I lift off part of my project trying to lift up the washi tape. And I noticed as I was doing this that some of the lines on my fairies seemed to be covered up with the color that I used. So I just went in with a thin black marker to darken those lines. Now I'm going to be arranging my pieces here, and I did cut a little sliver on this lighter green vine that I cut, and this was just to make it a little wider than my darker green so I could position them kind of like intertwined, if you will. And I'm applying here the glue using my little precision tip bottle that I bought. I believe it was Amazon. It's a pack of 10 of these little bottles, and they're great. They really allow for you to apply the glue easily over thin pieces. So I use that a lot. I get the glue and I add a little bit of water to the glue, that way it could flow a little easier through the little thin point of the bottle. But I highly recommend these little bottles. I have a lot of different types of glue placed in these bottles. So now I'm just fidgeting here and trying to see how it is that I want to arrange these pieces, and decide how it is that I'm going to be applying these cute little fairies on here. And I was just not content with the 3 fairies, so I ended up only using 2 fairies. And I also decided to put some foam adhesive on them just to have them stand out a bit as if they're flying on this vine. And since they were going to be placed on a die cut, I decided to add some liquid glue to the back of these fairies on top of the foam adhesive, just to secure them, and that they will be, not wobbling around or flying on their own. But yes, this foam adhesive really helps in making these pieces stand out and give them, a little bit more dimension. I also decided to add little pieces of foam tape to the back of some of the leaves. And I just go in with my scissors and I cut a square of foam tape, and I cut it into little pieces, and I add these little pieces onto the back of the leaves. I also went ahead and I added some little die cut flowers just to bring the whole card together. And how can you have fairies and not have flowers, right? So I think that this completes the card. Thank you so much for joining me once again, and hope to see you next time. Okay, now I bring this here, center it. What the heck? Why is it so small? What the heck? Oh my gosh, why is it so small? Darn it. Shoot. Oh, what size is it? Oh, it's a 5.5, not a 5. Shoot. Oh well. Good.